So we've got time for some questions, and I'd like to hear from the students as well as the press, if I may. And just to make a quick point, I've seen the fantastic sign that you've got on your canteen wall about registering to vote, and just to remind you, and you're covered in stickers, so you don't need reminding, but make sure that you register to vote, because it's critical that your voice is heard in this general election. And you've got until the 22nd of May. Now, questions, we'll take them in rounds of 3. So I'll take one from the lady with the blonde hair just there, firstly.
Thank you. I'm Rachel Younger from ITV News. Angela said adults will no longer be held back by fear of loans. A question for Jeremy. There's no promise here to scratch tuition fees, and only the very poorest students are going to qualify for your maintenance grants. For university students, you're helping a few, not the many, aren't you?
Next question. We'll do them in rounds of 3. Try and get a student. I've got the gentleman with the red tie on in the stripy shirt.
Will Hazel from the Times Educational Supplement. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the massive shake-up to GCSE, the GCSE grading system, which is happening this summer? I imagine it's going to affect a lot of students in this room.
Right, one more. Try and take one from this side. Any questions on this side of the room? There's a lady at the back there in a black and white top. So there's just a mic on the way to you, lovey.
Thank you. My question is not specifically about education, but it's about children and adoption. Would you consider amending the Children's Act to cater for adoptive families whose children need to live elsewhere due to the results of their early trauma? Currently, this is treated in the same way as children removed from abusive families, and this demonises adopters.
Can you explain the question a bit more?
At the moment, if adopted children cannot stay with their adoptive families due to their attachment issues, they are removed under a care order, and the adoptive family is treated in the same way that abusive parents are treated when their children are removed for their own safety.
Okay, yeah, I see your point. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I take some of them first, and then Jeremy, you can mop up if I don't catch them. I know, Rachel, you wanted Jeremy to answer your question, but one of the reasons why I didn't want to give too much of the manifesto away today is there was 2 things I wanted to focus on today in my brief. One was to reassure parents that are frightened up and down the country that their schools have not got the funding they need. That was priority 1 to me, to say to any parent out there today, your children will have the funding you need, because we know that we're already losing teachers and support staff, and that parents are already being asked to provide support for schools and to give donations. So I wanted to do that. And I also wanted the focus to be on FE, because I'm sick of the focus being on HE, quite frankly. FE changed my life. So I wanted FE to have a day where somebody, a politician in power, said, you are just as important. And for the rest of the tuition fees, wait for the manifesto. But today is about further education, lifelong learning and adult education. That's what I wanted it to be about. Now, Will, I think me and you are the only people and the rest of the education correspondents in this room that have even heard of the shake-up and the new grades that are coming in the summer. Because, quite frankly, I talk to businesses and they think it's chaos. They don't know. Half of them don't even know that these new grading systems coming in. And it concerns me. I think the government have failed, and it's been a systematic failure from the moment I took over this brief, because they're changing too much. And it's not evidence-based. They're not allowing these changes to be bedded in, and they're not basing them on evidence. Now, what I will do, and I've said because of my working class roots, I wasn't a teacher, but I know from my background that having a team of experts and listening is the best thing you can do to provide a well-rounded, brilliant team and good policy. And this government fails to listen to policy and fails to base their policies on evidence. So that's the difference between us. I think it's chaotic, what the government's done, and I think there's a challenge that the government still hasn't faced in terms of how they support businesses and our students. And quite frankly, there'll be many students that get their results of GCSEs in September and will feel failures, and it's not their failure, it's this government's failure.
Thank you for the 3 questions. Andrew's absolutely right. Today is about further education, the esteem with which we hold it, and the value of colleges and that opportunity which can develop into university education or apprenticeships. It can develop into a whole lot of things. On the fees question for universities, you'll have to wait for the manifesto. I know you're desperate for it, and I've got some stuff in my pocket, but I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to give it to you. It's all right. Do you mind? Can you cope? Can you cope with the excitement? No, I know you don't like to wait, but you're going to have to. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But I can tell you this. We value people that work really hard in our public services. We value our nurses. We all value our nurses. We will reintroduce the nurse bursary so nobody is prevented from taking an education and training course and a qualification in nursing to work in our NHS. They will get a bursary to do it under a Labour government. Okay? On the point on GCSEs, I absolutely endorse what Angela's just said. And it's very difficult to explain this to students who at this moment, I was just talking to someone yesterday, going through the trauma of starting GCSEs, going through day after day of that very complex matrix of exams, and knowing that the grading system has been so changed that they're going to feel a bit devalued at the end of it. So that has to be explained. It has to be explained in the publication of the results, and it has to be explained to all future employers and universities exactly what it means to have done your GCSEs in 2017 compared to 2016 or any other time, because it is a very traumatic time, and you think of all those students working really, really hard. They need to be rewarded, appreciated and supported in what they're trying to do in school in order to go on and do other great things in their lives. The points that you raised about adoption, thank you very much for them. I fully understand that. Those that take on adoption are doing a fantastic job for all of us, because children that are taken into care for all kinds of reasons need to be fully supported, not just to the age of 18, but much longer than that. Because if you grow up with your biological parents, you maintain a relationship with them for the rest of your lives. Adoption is for life. So we should be supporting the adoptive family for much longer than just the time when the children reach early adulthood or even into their early 20s. And on the point you're making about those that have to move somewhere else for their own safety, I fully understand that. There should be no stigma whatsoever attached to those that have stepped up to help our children. And I want to say now, this opportunity, thank you to all those people all around this country that do take on the very difficult job of fostering. They're doing a huge good for all of us, and thank you for those that go even further and become adoptions of children, those who adopt those children. Thank you to all of them for what they do. Yes, it's very rewarding for them, but it's also a very difficult time for many of them. Yes, we'll look at that legislation and make sure there is no stigma attached whatsoever to it because of circumstances way beyond the control of both the children and the adoptive parents. Thank you for your question.
Okay. We've got time for a few more questions. I see Emily at the back.
No, it's fine. Jeremy Corbyn, just your comments on the news that's broken in the last few minutes. From what we understand, the CPS is not going to have any criminal prosecutions into Conservative spending on the last election. Can we just get your thoughts on that?
Got a student, I think, at the front in the black T-shirt.
Yeah, this strays off the topic of education a bit, but it's more if Labour were to win the general election, will they be pushing a renewable energy policy for the future to come in the UK?
And there's a lady with glasses.
Just on the topic of the GCSEs and being changed for this year and stuff, my sister's doing them this year, and I found out some months ago actually that the English literature, when they're having to do the poetry section, they're having to memorise 15 poems, I think it was, and all the themes and basically only 1 or 2 was going to appear in the exam. And I just thought that shouldn't the education of it be more an application of a concept rather than having to memorise an entire anthology of poems or an entire anthology of anything really?
Thank you.
Okay, well, on the last question about memorising 15 poems, I can probably quote much more than 15 poems at you because I love poetry. But the idea that you would send a young person into an exam having to remember 15 poems on the basis one of them might show up on the exam paper, it's going to put them off poetry for the rest of their lives. And that is not what we want to achieve. I want people to love poetry and be inspired by it, not put off it. Yeah. What's your favourite poem? Take up poetry after the exams, all right?
Take John Cooper Clarke, he's good.
Yeah, try John Cooper Clarke or John Lennon, all right? Okay, on the question on renewable energy, it will be in the manifesto what the figures are. What I can say is that in the 2 leadership campaigns that I ran for in the Labour Party, I made it very clear that I want to move the balance much more towards renewable energy in this country. We have moved some way towards that with the development of onshore and offshore wind farms, solar generation and tidal barrage schemes such as the one in Swansea and others that have been considered. I think we could achieve more than half, possibly as much as 2/3 of our energy coming from renewable sources, and it's also a huge job creator. I was in Northumberland recently, where in Blyth there is the development by Arch, which is a local government-owned company, of the former power station there, former coal-fired power station, which is being used as a dock place in order to take the wind turbines out to Dogger Bank, where this huge wind farm is being constructed, and there's a huge enterprise going on there. There's also a lot of jobs created from it. So you'll have to wait for the manifesto, but I'm very committed to much more sustainable energy. And when buildings are constructed, like look around this city and all the other cities in this country, if we had a planning requirement of solar powered cells on the roofs as well as solar panels for water heating, it all adds up and reduces the need for the use of fossil fuel or nuclear or any other form of generation. It's an attitude of mind that I'm very keen to put forward. On the excuse me, it's an election throat. On the question of the CPS, I've only just heard that news. I am interested and surprised by it, but we'd have to look at the details of it. But quite clearly, the Electoral Commission is independent, the Crown Prosecution Service is independent, the Director of Public Prosecution is independent. They have to make judgment on it. But our election laws must be enforced and must be adhered to. There are strict spending limits for a reason, so that money can't buy power. Only votes in the ballot box should be able to get power, and that's why I want you all to register to vote.
Well, I'm afraid that's it for questions. But
Angela might answer on the...
No,
not on the poetry question, Angela.
Well, all I would say in terms of the poetry question, what was loaded in that question actually for me, and what's really devastating about what the government have done with our curriculum, is they've choked out the love of learning. And that's what today was about for me. It's about bringing that back, that passion of lifelong learning, about enjoying it. I didn't enjoy school. I felt education was something that was done to me. Whereas when I got older, I love finding out new facts now. And if all we do is feed children for a test or feed people for a test, you really don't get the best out of people, and you don't get that love of learning and that lifelong learning approach. So we will do things differently. So watch out for our manifesto.
We want people to love learning, not be concerned by it, because we all learn all of our lives. That's what Angela's proposing. Lifelong learning. Cradle to grave. You never stop being a student. Okay?
remains for me to say thank you to everybody for coming today. I know it's been a bit warm in the room, so go out now and enjoy the sunshine. And thank you to Leeds City College for hosting today's event. I have to say it's very apt that we're launching a visionary educational project and policy going forward in a place that I understand used to be the home of Monopoly. They used to manufacture the Monopoly boards, so a home of leading industry, now a home of leading education provision, hosting a leading educational vision for the future. Thank you very much.